Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here today to do an in-depth spoiler analysis of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And first off, I just wanted to say, I just had the biggest disaster weekend of all time with this channel. Over the past 2 days, I completely fucked up, so many times. And yesterday, I could have done a lot yesterday. I just wasn't able to because I was so sick. And, it was a disaster. And so I am glad to be back doing videos and, not like when I reviewed Monster Blood yesterday, I don't know if you could tell, but I was like dying when I was reviewing that book. And it was terrible to like just be sitting there like, Monster Blood, it's good. It was terrible. And I do have a couple of more points that I thought about. I think that is also another sign of a good movie, is that you think about it a lot, and you think about just more and more stuff that you have to say about it. The worst types of movies are the ones where it's like, oh yeah, that movie sucked, bye-bye. That's all you have to say. Movies that stand the test of time, they are the best ones. Because in years and years, people are going to talk about them and use them as examples for when they make their movies and they can compare, whatever. So that's a little tangent. But anyway, my overall thoughts on the movie. I have not been excited about a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie since the prequel to the remake in 2006. Over time, I came to accept this as one of those dead horror franchises. When news of yet another reboot or sequel came up, I suddenly gained interest again, but for a different reason entirely. I wanted it to be the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie I saw in theaters aside the original one. When I saw the original one re-released with Safi in 2017, it had that typical low audio and small picture that every re-release seems to have. So it wasn't that great of an experience, to say the least. As well, we were the only ones in the theater, as well as like a young couple. And that was pretty cool. There was this guy with long hair, and he brought his girlfriend to the theater because he really wanted to show her this movie for the first time, and he was really excited, so that was cool. But it wasn't a great movie theater experience. It was very lackluster. With the new one, I thought it would be a great time to take my friends to see it in theaters. Then I saw the interesting abstract poster, which got me even more excited. All my excitement was soon deflated when I heard the film was sold to Netflix, a studio notorious for not releasing films so everyone can see them. Releasing them in theaters, I mean. And the trailers and general plot made me want to puke. Another stupid horror movie. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold too. Another stupid horror movie where it wipes away the sequels from the canon and brings back the overrated final girl to face off against a senior citizen bad guy. Fuck that. The only parts of the trailers I found interesting were the hot chicks. By the time the movie arrived on Netflix, I was not enthusiastic about watching this, to say the least. Safi watched it before me and gave me conflicting opinions. And as I feared, the first 10 minutes were a disaster, hammering social justice politics and terrible characters instead of telling a good story. Then the movie got good, and I knew that all of the beginning was just a ruse. It was just a part. You had to wait for it to play out to see what the filmmakers really intended. When the third act rolled around, I was loving everything about it. At the end, I cheered in glee seeing Melody get her head cut off. I was fully into it. My viewing experience was essentially the scene in Back to the Future where Marty's family members are disappearing in the picture and his hands are starting to disappear too. But after he plays the songs and his parents finally kiss, they reappear in the picture, making him happy that he'll exist again in the future. Overall, I think it's a damn good movie. It delivers exactly what I want in a Texas Chainsaw movie, and it makes up for the shortcomings of the past entries. That being said, it still has flaws like every other film. I decided to go through it once more and list everything specific I had to say about the movie so I could properly argue for why I like it personally. So, number one, and I have like 96 points, by the way. It's going to be a long ride. One of my complaints about the series in general is the lack of good music. The first one has some creative, industrial sounding music made on an extremely low budget, although it doesn't really accompany the whole movie the way good horror movie music should. The second one has some catchy 80s tunes along with an okay theme. After that, I don't remember a single good piece of music in a film in the series. Well, correction, kinda related to the film, the use of Song to the Siren in the trailer for the 2003 remake is masterful. So I was delighted when I heard the music for the new film. It consistently filled the entire story, becoming more thrilling and intense at action-packed moments. The whole score is visceral in how it hits you. Mainly, there's a powerful echoing industrial moaning sound, as if it's coming from a chainsaw. Perhaps it's the voice of Leatherface, or Leatherface's past self. And there are a lot of moments where you actually can tell the composer used inspiration from the original film's score. I don't think the score is one of the best ever, but it fixes one of the biggest flaws of the series. Doesn't that award it any points? To contrast it with the movie people love to compare it with, Halloween 2018, Texas Chainsaw's music feels like one complete journey, one complete experience, building on each and every piece as the movie goes on. Halloween 2018's music sounds all over the place, with John Carpenter randomly trying out different random ideas with the same old piece of music from the first one. It might be entertaining to listen to each piece independently, but once you insert it all into the actual film, it falls apart. The only moment in the whole film when the music is any good is when Allison is running away from Michael Myers for about 5 seconds. You know, that that was a pretty good. Okay, I won't do that again, I promise. Well, okay, maybe I will. The only moment in the entire I already did that. Fuck. Meanwhile, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, I can immediately think of several examples where the score works perfectly in conjunction with the visuals. Namely, the bus scene, where the song Every Last One attacks you on a sensory level, just like Leatherface is attacking the entire bus full of people. And it does what every good score should do. It leaves you wanting more. Think about the ending of the original Halloween. The theme brilliantly echoes throughout the simple sequence of past locations from the film, along with Michael's breathing. If that doesn't want you... I'm a little off today, I guess. If that doesn't make you want more Halloween, then I don't know what will. It symbolizes the never-ending evil Michael brings to the world of Haddonfield, and therefore it begs the continuing that story to see if he can be defeated. Texas Chainsaw Massacre ends with Melody getting beheaded, and once she's dead, the main musical melody of the film ends as well. Then we are left with the background music with his chainsaw actually providing the same sound the buzzing melody did throughout the film. It's also worth noting chainsaw sounds sync up with the buzzing before the film begins, letting you know of their audible importance and how they're related to each other. The score has somewhat of a stinging sound to it, just like Western scores. There are a lot of Western parallels throughout the movie, another difference between this one and other entries. Now, I'm not going to be in total defense of this movie either. Of course not. The opening true crime documentary about the original is a poor, simplistic retelling of events. Only 5 youths were supposedly slaughtered, but we know there were plenty more killed by the Sawyer family. Or else, where did Leatherface get the multiple masks made out of skin? Did he peel the skin off of his useless grandparents? Why is the documentary only mentioning a singular madman when an entire family was involved with the crimes? Why is Nubbin Sawyer getting run over by a truck not mentioned? Why does Leatherface's mask in the reenactment more so resemble the grandfather than Leatherface himself? Why are they calling him unidentified if they know the Sawyer family lived there? How would they know what type of chainsaw Leatherface used if he took the chainsaw with him? Why are they showing footage of people digging up bones in their yard and not mentioning the Sawyer family killed X number of victims, or it's estimated how many they killed? Why are the pictures of the various victims from during the original film from the film when they easily could have gotten personal pictures from those actors from around the time? There's a lot of story here we as an audience have to put together ourselves by theorizing. In my opinion, they purposefully made it vague and simplistic so they could hear fans' opinions and theories of what happened and then craft a sequel around what the fans wanted. What I do like about the scene is that they are taking inspiration from the real-life gas station used in the original film, where it has since become a tourist attraction. There you can buy tons of Texas Chainsaw Massacre-related items, such as shirts, keychains, and I'll tell you something, I bought a wardrobe for one of the movies, and I still have it, and it came from the gas station because they gave me a shirt, they gave me an awesome keychain, which will be the keychain I use forever, they gave me all sorts of stuff, and so, you know, it's exactly like that in the movie, exactly like it, and so I thought that was a nice little touch. And later on in the movie, they mentioned selling one of the buildings in Harlow to a brunch place called Brady's Brunch, which reminds me of how they turned the original Texas Chainsaw house into a bed and breakfast place. And in fact, that building being called Brady's Brunch, that's a reference to Brady's Bunch. I've never seen the show, but it is about family. And so the themes of family reference right there. Then we are introduced to one of our main characters, a girl named Lila. Lila being another good horror movie reference in Lila Loomis from Psycho. The peculiar thing about her character is that they chose to give her a hairstyle and wardrobe just like Kirk's from the original film. Since Kirk was the first victim, they might be subliminally trying to remind us of him, thus making us feel more danger for her than anyone else. And she's the only one inside the gas station with all the memorabilia, which might be foreshadowing how she'll be the only one who will end up alive at the end of the movie. Similar to when people go through a roller coaster or a haunted house, and then at the end they enter a gift shop where they can buy all sorts of stuff like t-shirts saying, "I rode that ride and survived." Fitting that the only survivor is the character who learned about the true story before encountering Leatherface. Not that it helped her in any way, but just the fact that the one character who learned about that true story is the one who survives. And the owner of the gas station survives too. I'm going to take a drink of water. So the only people in that station were the ones who survived, aside Leatherface. Interestingly enough, the actor who plays the owner also plays the main antagonist in Heavy Rain, the video game. Spoilers for Heavy Rain, because I spoiled it in the review, and I felt bad that I did. In that game, you play as several characters investigating the disappearance of an 8-year-old kid. One of them being Scott Shelby, a private detective you think is going to save the day and solve the case. By the end, you find out he was the killer all along. They might have cast him to remind people of how evil hides in plain sight. Leatherface hid in plain sight in Harlow like Scott Shelby did in the game. And it's also interesting how the climax of the film all revolves around rainwater. It rains, causing everyone to go inside the bus and get slaughtered. And in the final showdown, Leatherface emerges from the pool of rainwater, as well as falling back into it after he's seemingly defeated. In the video game, we find out Scott had a twin brother who was tragically killed drowning in rainwater. While fans have already speculated this Leatherface is the older brother in the Sawyer family from Part 3, and not Bubba, who died in Part 2. See? This movie isn't so stupid. And that theory came specifically from the Horror Syndicate on Facebook. I thought that was a good theory, and so, maybe that's true. Maybe that's all related to what I'm talking about. I like the black and white picture of Leatherface on the wall of the gas station. It reminds me of Halloween 6 when we see Michael's face on Tommy's wall. There are a lot of parallels to Halloween 6 too, the film that made Michael the most brutal and scary. I will talk about Sally's character later on, because I know she's a hot button issue for the Halloween 2018 fanboys. Remember when I said the survivors were the only people who were in the gas station? It's a possibility Melody might have survived too. Lila has constant visions of her horrible past throughout the film, so I don't know why it would be out of line to suggest she was only envisioning her sister getting killed at the end of the movie. She learned the true story before she went to Harlow, so she could have possibly be unknowingly recreating the ending of the first movie in her own way in her mind. I find it hilarious how the brainless fanboys have labeled this movie a political film. I even had some idiot on Facebook actually lecture me about it being an SJW free-for-all and telling me to watch another review of the film, which apparently said the movie was SJW. Why in the hell would I watch someone else's review of a movie I've already seen and reviewed? Sometimes anti-SJWs are even dumber than SJWs themselves. Right off the bat, the gas station owner is insulting them. If this was an SJW film, he wouldn't be allowed to call them gentry fuckers as they left the gas station. He would have to call them that to their faces, and then include their witty comebacks to that insult. SJWs do this type of scene in their films because they're fantasizing about what they can't do in real life and confronting people. But in this movie, they are completely ignorant to his insult, making us, the audience, the only recipients of it. Since we can assume the reason was to laugh, wait, what? What? That doesn't make sense. That's a badly written sentence. But since we were the only recipients, I can assume that the reason was to laugh at them along with him. Otherwise, including that insult was pointless. However, I knew the first 10 minutes would be inflammatory when I saw it. I even made a negative thumbnail picture for the review, and I only changed it once the film got really good. I also find it funny how people complain Lila stood up through the sunroof at the end of the film. She's shown to like doing that as soon as she gets in the car at the beginning. It's completely in character that that would be her first instinct. I mean, for some reason, she just loves standing up through the sunroof. The character comes off at first, Melody. She comes off at first like a typical SJW. Oh, wait, no, not Melody. God, I am just totally screwing this great analysis up with my Monday Marco syndrome. The character of Richter comes off at first like a typical SJW agenda movie character. A straight white male who irritates the main characters and looks like an idiot in comparison to them. He's blasting loud music, driving a red truck, and carrying an open carry pistol. Handgun. You know, the typical stereotypes of a toxic male. When Melody makes a stupid and inappropriate remark about why he's carrying the gun, he immediately retorts her by informing her of the feral hogs problem in the area, making her look like a total retard. In my view, after watching the entire film, he is not the typical toxic man character. He's the typical character who comes off as a frightening at first to these main weirdo characters, and then they find out over the course of the film that he's actually a good person. It's very good contrast to the original film, where we're led to believe the gas station owner is a good man until the twist near the end. So they flip the twist. Instead of a good character becoming evil, or they're actually evil, it's actually a guy who seems like he's bad, but he's good. The whole bullshit anti-gun perspective of the film is flawed. Having a main character in a horror film be someone who went through a traumatic event like that is an extremely interesting layer to their character. People confronted with the protagonist, people claim this film doesn't have good three-dimensional characters, yet they're confronted with a protagonist who has the unique past experience of being shot in a school shooting. It's yet another element that makes her more vulnerable to the killer, which will make us feel more danger for her too. In contrast, Allison from Halloween 2018 literally has nothing to her character. Oh, she wore a suit the entire first one. That's it. Great characters! It's also funny how people are criticizing this new one for not having good victim characters, when the entire series is known for having weak characters. Even though her sister is an irritating bitch, she's shown to be defensive of her sister, a layer to her character which remains consistent throughout the film. And regardless of her being an SJW or not, the defense of her sister is a likable character trait. Then we see Melody co-owns a restaurant of some kind with Dante. More and more character being added. And apparently these characters want to own all the land in Harlow and make it into a communist utopia. More character added. And I'll say that every single time, to show up these idiots saying these people are cardboard cutouts. The fun thing about them wanting to build a utopia for SJWs where they can be all by themselves is that it's reminiscent of how the Sawyer family loves to live in seclusion. And like in the second one, where they built an entire underground fortress. They're both groups of people who are more concerned about themselves than others, and about being in this sheltered bubble, this cult bubble. As for the truck passing the main characters and emitting gross smoke, it's a typical occurrence around where I live. In my film Super Dumbasses, which is a great comedy film, we were confronted with the same situation where a big black truck passed us and crowded our car in doing it like he was about to hit us. None of these things are forced and unnaturally inserted into the story just to fit an agenda. The only agenda is that they want the main characters to dislike him and then learn he's actually a decent person later. The way these main characters act isn't presented as though they're the good guys. Quite the opposite. First, Lila has a distracting part of her appearance, her gunshot wound in her upper chest. Just like how the hitchhiker from the original had the distracting birthmark on his face. Melody and Dante are both cooks for a restaurant, just like how Drayton and Leatherface did the cooking in the original movie. They even had the sheriff say to Dante, "You're the cook." That line has a different meaning than you thought, folks. I mean, obviously, I know. I know what people are thinking when they hear these certain lines in the movie, but I really think it's different than what you thought. Something I brought up about Melody in my review is how she has the exact same hair and face as the pretty woman mask Leatherface wears at the end of the original. So these characters are really presented as the invaders, the true bad guys of the film. The whole Tesla advertisement argument is weak too. It's a part of their SJW big city people stereotype. Funnily enough, there was a South Park episode that came out in the same week when this movie came out, where city people were shown as robotic idiots who are obsessed with Teslas, bottled water, Wi-Fi, MacBook Pro, LaCroix. But for some reason, people were able to tell in that the city people were presented as dumb and evil. Sorry. In this movie, people legitimately thought the filmmakers liked them, like these SJW cultists. The police pullover scene is another example of audience subversion in the film. We obviously expected the typical SJW agenda scene where the cops pull over the black person and give them a hard time, because let me tell you something, I see that in almost every single black movie I see nowadays. There's always a scene. Always. It is so irritating. It is probably one of the worst movie cliches of all time. Instead, the police are just a welcoming committee to the ghost town they bought. The ghost town setting is awesome. I haven't seen anyone give this movie props for adding a unique location to the story that hasn't been shown in past sequels. It's another parallel to Western films. Even the imagery of the Confederate flag is appropriate when dealing with a Western-focused movie. Don't forget how all the trouble in the movie starts when Dante gets triggered and wants to take down the flag, immediately going against the sheriff's wishes to respect the town. It's weird how they're concerned about taking down the Confederate flag, yet later in the movie, Melody proudly pronounces how Republican President Taft visited the town. So these woke losers they'll like that. They'll like that President Taft was there, but they won't like the Confederate flag. I mean, it's the same. It's all history. So it's like, I thought that was funny. Sorry, guys. I think my voice sounds a little coarse. It's because I have a cold. I apologize for that. Speaking of President Taft, his importance must not be downgraded. During his presidency, his wife suffered a severe stroke, leading him to have to take care of her and help her learn to speak again for a year. In that same vein, Leatherface had to take care of the mother figure in the orphanage. Taft also was the only president ever to become a Chief Justice as well. Maybe it is telling us Leatherface is judging the main characters, leading him to sentence them all to death. It's worth noting the orphanage opened in 1925, during the time Taft was Chief Justice. Richter is revealed to be their contractor, facing them with another subversion to their prejudiced opinion of him, being just a loser, idiot, psycho, like they say. Creepily enough, when Richter asks them if they're a cult, the blonde puts her arm around her fiancé Dante, when she says the two words better world. She might be one of those racist white women who want to genetically engineer an all-black future. You know, the types on dating apps who say, black men only, 5'9" or up, black men only, I only accept black kings. You know, I see that all the time nowadays. It's so sickening. And I see it with, like, all the different races. Like, I see only Asian people for me, only white people for me. I just matched with this bitch on a dating site, and on her profile she said, I only date cute white boys. And so, ugh, gross. Oh, look, more to Ruth's character, though. More to her character. That is character. That little arm around the shoulder. That is character. That sounds funny. Richter calling them a cult is another indicator of them being the true antagonists of the film. They are a cult. He also demonstrates more humanity than them, telling them he's not judging them if they're a communist cult. Meanwhile, they all dislike him, no matter what, still. A fly even buzzes and flies off of Lila, possibly implying she smells so bad flies like sticking to her all the time. Or it could also be the fact that when people die, you know, flies and stuff, they'll go all over you. And so maybe it's another subliminal, like, uh-oh, she's in danger. So that I know it's just one fly, but come on. They're hammering you over the head with how unlikable and despicable these characters are without doing it the old-fashioned way, the one-dimensional Friday the 13th way. They have sex, they do drugs, and swear. You know, they say a swear. Have you ever said a swear? One huge criticism I have with the film is the lack of an ass shot like in the original and the remake. You know, the one where Pamela is walking towards the Sawyer house in her red shorts? They never even attempt to do that in this one, even though they have plenty of opportunity. The orphanage containing a stained glass window at the top of the stairs in front of the front door is very similar to the Bates house in Psycho. The first time we see Leatherface's full body, he's simply a black figure, like Norman Bates was in the Psycho shower scene. When Dante attempts to take out the flag, there's a very creepy shot where you can clearly see Leatherface sitting in the shadows in the corner of the screen. And honestly, I never even noticed he was there until my fourth rewatch. The picture I complained about, I have a different perspective on now. He might be an adult in the picture of him and all the other kids at the orphanage, hopefully. He just looked like a teenager to me in the trailer when I saw that picture. So somehow he came to this orphanage in Harlow in 1970s. The picture definitely looks like it was taken in the 70s. What's interesting is Melody focuses on Leatherface in the photograph, yet his face is scratched out. That's something psychopaths do. In fact, my favorite serial killer to research, Herb Baumeister, he took all of his family photos and cut his face out of them. But in this case, it also represents how Melody is unable to see past people's surface level beliefs and values. She's unable to see things from Richter's or Leatherface's sides yet. I also love the idea of them being confronted with trespassing in the house. Some people say in the original film they deserve to die because they entered without any permission. Here, it made the main conflict of the film. It's made the main conflict of the film. Leatherface and this woman weren't disturbing anyone. It was the woke cult who were. The "I would have put my face on" line is obviously a nod to putting on human faces like Leatherface. Once again, Dante and Melody are presented as villainous intruders who are being hostile to this sweet old lady She offers them sweet tea to home invaders, and in response, they treat her only based on the fact that she has a Confederate flag hanging on her building. They are unable to see people for their humanity, only for their surface level qualities. When she tells Melody how the flag reminds her of her great grandfather, she shrugs it off, still judging her. And then Leatherface shows up to observe Melody distressing the old woman. He doesn't attack her or even say some demeaning insult. He just stands there watching. And when he's told to go back to his room, he actually does. It is genuinely upsetting watching this old woman being kicked out of her own house and having a heart attack. It's easily the most upsetting death in the whole film. Funny how Dante, a person so critical of the police earlier in the film, immediately uses them to suit his needs. The scene is reminiscent of ones in westerns, where the bad guys enter a home or a store and demand them to leave while they hurt them and deface and take over the property. Remember the chainsaw moaning melody? The first time it plays is when she's being kicked out of her house by the police, letting you know it is going to be the start of conflict. Who's the first person to come running when this poor old woman is having a heart attack? Leatherface himself. How many horror movies have you seen where the villain is rushing to save someone's life? Even in Freddy vs. Jason, the two bad guys were only concerned with each other, not caring about the human characters living or dying. I liked how Melody actually had a character arc in the film. She's the only person genuinely upset about the old woman dying, and it begins to make her reevaluate her entire beliefs. She is then the only one who learns the truth. She seeks out the truth and finds out that the house was actually still the old woman's. And she wanted to leave the town too. She was very upset. And when she finds out, it breaks her heart. She changes and feels for these people. She even apologizes to Leatherface after he's massacred about 20 plus people, because she can at that point see through his surface level actions to his real character underneath. She sees what no other character is able to see. Also, when Leatherface is driven away, it's weird where the positioning is. The shot mirrors the ending where Lila is driven away and sees her sister beheaded as she's leaving. It's even in a similar first-person perspective shot. When he's judging them, we see them interacting outside in the exact order they die. Ruth is in the van, she dies first, then there's Dante, and then there's Richter behind him, and then there's Melody, and then there's Lila who survives. The shot where the main characters walk away from the Confederate flag is good. It suggests to me, was all this pain and suffering worth it over a stupid flag? It's like they're all walking away from what they know happened, erasing the history for the crowd of people who came to buy up the town. Dante says, "Come on, Mel, we'll get someone to clean that up." He doesn't care. He doesn't care to clean up the puke himself, even though he should. What's funny is, besides them, Richter is the only one there who have stake in the town. So who are they gonna get to clean up the puke? Nobody. They are the people who need to clean it up. So that was total bullshit. And one second. When Lila tells Melody the heart attack is a bad omen, Melody completely ignores it, telling us she's still the superficial bitch who hasn't seen the full picture yet. So please enlighten me how this movie is glorifying these SJW characters. The cowboy on a horse statue is interesting, because to me he symbolizes Leatherface making one last stand against the town being changed and ruined forever. He himself is a relic of the past, facing off against these invaders. He's the town's last hope. When Melody suggests the town needs a fresh coat of paint, she's told, no, people like the rustic feel. They like the history. So that whole Confederate flag issue was worthless. But ironically, Leatherface grants her wish by painting the entire town red with blood. And also then the town will and then the town will have more history, the history of this massacre that happens. The scene where Leatherface is set off is unique, in that it once again, he's jumping at the chance to save someone's life. It's only once the police deputy threatens his ability to do so that he does break. I've already talked before about him having lose a motherly figure was from the Ed Gein inspiration. Ed Gein being the main inspiration for the whole series. That's the funny thing. I saw someone saying, you can't have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie without the evil family. But in real life, it was just Ed Gein. Even Ed Gein's possible accomplices were not a part of his family. He had no family. They were all dead. He was left alone after his mom died, just like Leatherface in this movie. And that's why he became a killer, just like Leatherface in this movie. Despite a family being absent from the film, he's doing everything because of his family. The impact of her death is felt through the rest of the movie. It should also be worth mentioning, he never cannibalizes once in the movie, which shows he was never a cannibal in the first place. His old family just made him that way. Since his new mother told him not to be naughty, he stopped himself from grabbing at the deputy's hand. But then the deputy took out his pistol in response. He was really trying as best as he could to resist killing again. In contrast, Michael Myers only had to get shown his original mask to get the urge to kill again. That's literally all it took. And he didn't just target a few babysitters on Halloween night. He went on a killing rampage, all because he saw a mask out of the corner of his fucked up eye, while a random British guy yelled, Michael! Michael! Say something! But that movie is a masterpiece. Ha ha ha! Before his mother figure dies, she also tells him, stay out of my room. Another similarity to Norman Bates from Psycho. He's probably gotten caught in there in the past playing dress-up after those years of conditioning and abuse to dress like a woman and wear makeup for his real family. Lila is still a revolting SJW, but she has an important difference to her group. She also trespasses into Richter's house, but she doesn't go there to attack him and push him out. She comes there to learn more about him based on her narrow-minded perceptions of him. In turn, he learns more about her based on his narrow-minded perceptions. They have a dialogue, and because of that, nobody dies. Lila mentions she feels pressured to do something special with her life after the shooting. Oh wow, more character added. When Dante learns about the old lady's death, his response is, heart disease killed her. He has no ability to take responsibilities for his actions and see that what he did was wrong. It was a funny line though. Heart disease killed her. That's funny. Melody, although disturbed, isn't fully past her bitch ways. She trespasses into Richter's place and then yells at her sister for thinking that she slept with him, as if special people like her and her sister should not be intermingling with toxic men like him. More genetic engineering themes. One thing I love about the movie are the scenes with Leatherface taking his sweet time to do what he's doing while the victims have to just sit there and wait in fear. It's more suspenseful and realistic. Honestly, it's so cool to just sit there seeing him carve off a face in the background while this woman sits there panicking. We never see that with other killers. Usually they're always in a big rush, or they do their handiwork off screen. The mask itself in the film I've criticized before because frankly it looks like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. However, it follows the rule of why he wears them in the first place, in the original. He wore them in the original to portray his mood at any given moment. Him wearing his dead mother's face and even carving the eye holes and mouth to look sad makes more sense than any of the sequels and remakes. Realize this. It's the only other entry in the series besides the first one to use that rule. Every other one just pretends he wears the mask because he's a psychopath, and that's it. Or in the remake and prequel, where he wears the boyfriend masks to taunt the main characters, and because he has a skin disease. To top that off, it's the most functional mask of them all. He carved ear holes to stick the mask on his face. I thought that was a nice touch. People have pointed out his mask doesn't look very much like Mrs. McCee's face. I agree. So what does it look like? The mask looks like Norman Bates from the Psycho novel, where he's a balding and fat hillbilly. So we have yet another parallel to a property based off of Ed Gein. Another criticism I heard from someone is that they said at first his hair is gray and then it turns brown later on in the movie. Well, that's because his hair is drenched in rain, so it looks darker in the rain, which happens with all hair. And I even looked that up just now. I looked it up to check, like, do people with gray hair, does that hair get dark in the rain? It does. So, and so also, not having the gray hair and the hair turning brown makes him look like that 40-year-old Norman Bates character more. These references and parallels only strengthen the feelings the movie gives off and how effective the horror is. There's nothing wrong with doing that, only in doing it too much, like in Halloween 2018. Stanley Kubrick famously used the axe-cutting scene from the silent movie The Phantom Carriage in The Shining. Although with that movie, it was public domain, so he probably felt more comfortable ripping it off. It's worth mentioning his first few kills are purely strategical. Leatherface doesn't bash the sheriff's head in with the oxygen tank until it's a million pieces. He just hits him twice. And he did not really want to kill the blonde woman. He just didn't want any witnesses. In fact, the reason he covers her eyes with her hair is symbolic of her inability to have witnessed his crimes. It's also another time in the film where they tell you these young cultists cannot see what's right in front of them. They cannot see reality. So immediately we're starting off with the Leatherface straight out of the original, where he's killing people in the fastest, simplest ways possible, instead of savoring his kills. Over the course of the movie, though, he gets more and more brutal because he starts to enjoy it. He's reminded of how he missed killing people and animals as a young man. Meanwhile, Michael Myers in Halloween 2018, the supposed embodiment of pure evil, doesn't even have the balls to kill a baby in a crib. In the entire movie, he kills people with the same ferocity, sometimes displaying them just because. I mean, what was the logic in displaying that one guy's head as a jack-o'-lantern? Or in Halloween Kills, where he displays the kids with the masks on? At least when Leatherface displayed his mother, it was obviously a shrine to her memory. A flaw I have with the film is I wanted to see Melody and or Dante cook. We see a brief flash of grills filled with food, and it looks like it's being cooked by the investors there. Why? These guys, Melody and Dante, they literally came there to cook in a restaurant. They should be the ones cooking. There is a simple touch I like, though, where when the barbecue opens, we hear the infamous camera flash sound from the original movie. They didn't play that. They didn't play that with Leatherface in the entire movie. So, what I meant was like, whenever Leatherface is around, they don't play the that camera flash sound that's very famous. They didn't play that with Leatherface. They only played it with these guys. And remember, the sound was originally used because Nubbin Sawyer was photographing a corpse he displayed. So another similarity to the villains of the first movie. I love how Richter takes the keys from the cultists and he plainly says they murdered the old lady. He could have said, "I heard the old lady died, idiots, because of you," or something to that effect. But the specific wording was murder. I'm going to completely destroy every Halloween fanboy's beliefs that this film copied Halloween 2018. I also find it hilarious how people are defending Halloween 2018 and Kills when they're notorious for having copied from every Halloween film in existence, while also pretending that those films don't exist. But no, it's not copying Halloween 2018. I thought it would when I saw the trailers, but I was wrong. It's more so copying from its own series. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the one everyone loves for some reason, Dennis Hopper plays a character who's a former Texas Ranger. He spent 13 years since the original hunting Leatherface, and he uses the main character Stretch as bait for him. He's also related to Sally. Sally in the film is a Texas Ranger who spent every year since 1974 hunting for Leatherface. And she uses Lila and Melody as bait for him. I saw a nitpick where fanboys criticized Sally for only bringing a shotgun. Number one. Yeah, I'm going to take another drink. Sorry I gotta keep taking these interruptions. That's why I like having other people in videos with me, because I could do that and it won't be noticeable. But number one, why would she bring anything more than one gun to kill a human being in Leatherface? Number two, these same fanboys loved how Laurie's sellout Strode only carried a pistol and pointed it at little children the whole night in Halloween 2018. Or in the new Scream, where Sidney just brings a little pistol and starts pointing it and shooting it at random people. I remember that when there's a guy hiding in the bathroom and she just shoots the door even though she doesn't know who's in there. I mean, what a fucking... Ugh. And Laurie was even less successful than Sally, only managing to shoot a mirror with Michael's reflection in it. She shot a mirror. More on Sally later. And also in Leatherface 2017, there was a Texas Ranger character who wanted to hunt and kill Leatherface and his whole family for killing his daughter. But, my Halloween 2018... When Dante and Melody enter the orphanage, they both acknowledge the puke is still on the floor. Oh, I thought someone was going to clean that up, right, Dante? The puke being left needlessly on the floor reminds me of in the original film, when the characters find human teeth on the porch, showing another similarity between these evil characters and the cultists. I also love how, when Dante enters the kitchen, he first looks at the pans hanging up, the same ones he'll look at later and see Leatherface's reflection in it before he's killed. The cleaver appears as if it's digging into him, foreshadowing his fate. When Melody finds the deed to the house, it's interesting. She sees a quick flashback of the old woman. It's to create emotion, but also to show us Melody finally sees the old woman as a person and not as a walking vehicle for her hatred of certain types of people. Another similarity to Psycho is when Leatherface kills Dante with the cleaver. It takes a long time for him to die, sure. He doesn't decapitate him, sure. But in conjunction with other parallels to Psycho, it's an obvious reference. Also, I like the little touch that Leatherface has trouble getting down on his knees and standing up afterwards. Little realistic touches like that make the movie feel scarier. A good parallel between Melody and Leatherface is the same way she hides and cries in the closet while he looks for a dress. Remember when his mother figure told him to stay out of her room? I bet when he was younger he would have to do the same thing and hide in the closet like this while she got her clothes. She's stepping into his shoes. And when she sees him mourning her and holding her dress still, she feels sorry for him. She's not horrified by him because he's become a killer. Meanwhile, in Halloween 2018, there's not a single moment in the film when Michael is sympathetic or when the characters have any sort of good feeling for him. It's just, he's pure evil, he's inhuman, he's bad, Michael Myers bad, he won't speak for me, blah, 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 blah. Leatherface hides his old chainsaw behind a picture in the wall, just like how Norman Bates hid his peephole behind a picture in the wall. It's worth noting the colored light on the bus is blue, the color most associated with sadness and loss. It's not only representing the sense of loss felt by Leatherface's mom dying, but it also foreshadows the loss of everyone on there except Lila and Melody. The first time we receive a typical scare where a shadowy figure walks quickly past an area to another, it's actually Dante, not Leatherface. Usually that would be the villain doing that, and Leatherface actually does that later on in the film. When Richter helps out Dante and holds his hand, he's finally able to see past his previous thoughts about him too. Richter is portrayed as a caring and helpful man. In any SJW film, he'd just be a background joke. I also find it funny how the puke stain on the floor is suddenly gone when Leatherface is home, making me think he cleaned it up. But the blood stain is still there from Dante. They even purposefully have the camera down on the floor so that you can see the blood stain and then there's no more puke stain. One of the dumb complaints about the movie is how the chainsaw works fine and there isn't any wear and tear to it. This is completely false. The chainsaw takes a long time to start. The first time he tries to start it, he actually has to drop what he's doing to kill Richter without one. And it is rusty. Safi and I love the touch where she turns the mirror so Richter can see Leatherface in it. It's such a cool little idea, and Richter isn't retarded enough to shoot the mirror like Laurie Strode. Leatherface comes out to attack him, and he misses every hammer swing except for one to the ankle. He has to fight dirtier because he's older. Yet people are acting like either his age doesn't have any effect on him or his age is affecting him too much. No, his age affects the character in every frame of the film. Richter's death is definitely the second most emotional one in the movie. He was the strongest character to go up against Leatherface, and he's immediately taken out. The effects in this death scene are fantastic. I love how, in his last moments, he hands her his keys. Well, the keys. It's not his keys. And they fall out of his hands when his brain is being smashed in. I mean, they just completely unclenched. It's so creepy to see the keys unclenched from his fingers. An interesting topic is, what is the importance of the sunflower field? According to the internet, sunflowers have the ability to heal and give energy to people. So it's ironic all this death occurs in one. And maybe it's providing energy and healing to Leatherface himself, making him stronger than ever as an old man. Maybe that's why they had the weird shot where he pops up in the middle of the field like a sunflower sprouting up. He was healed and ready for action. Leatherface even points sunflowers at his mother figure's body as if they're going to heal her. It might be considered a plot hole how all the characters leave Dante outside in the rain to die. But it's actually another indicator of how evil these people are. Just think about how fast Leatherface tended to his dying mother in comparison to the party bus of drunken woke idiots who wouldn't care less if Dante died. And when we see Melody again, we can hear Leatherface is actively fixing his chainsaw and tinkering with it, even pouring oil in it. If you listen, he actually pours oil twice. This is because chainsaws need two types of oil. And keep in mind, I don't know a lot about chainsaws, so I just found that on a quick search. I hope I'm right about that, but if you listen, so once again, we are given evidence the chainsaw has wear and tear. It's not just working perfectly. What were people thinking when they made that complaint? There is a very sexy shot where Melody is climbing over the staircase. The only problem is it's too dark to enjoy its full brilliance. If that was their intended ass shot of the movie, then creative thinking. But please have more lighting next time. Another complaint I heard is, since Leatherface is old, all he does is throw stuff. Ha 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 ha. Didn't you want his age to affect the way he kills? It's either it didn't affect anything or it didn't affect anything enough. Why would he chase after a fast, young woman when he can just throw a hammer at her, making her crash into the floor in the spot where the puke was? He's a smarter Leatherface. Her getting knocked down the stairs into the floor is very reminiscent of Arbogast falling down the stairs in Psycho, but it isn't done in a corny way where it looks ridiculous like in Psycho. Before Melody narrowly escapes the house, Leatherface saws open the pipe full of shit, covering her with it. In other words, before she can leave the house, Leatherface lets her know she's a shitty person. When Melody and her sister go on the bus, she's so horrified and upset she doesn't even speak a word. The movie is simply using the horror in her face to speak for her. And before Leatherface enters the bus, he decapitates the driver in the rain. A notable plot hole is how his head was chopped off, but no chainsaw sound was really heard. He might have cut off his head another way. I believe it's another similarity to the Psycho story, where Norman beheads Mary in the shower, and the shower, of course, is represented by the rainwater. You know, the fact that Mary, she goes to the Bates Motel because of the rain, and that's when Norman first comes out, and they're in the rain. The rain in that movie is the shower water. His cleaver didn't make any loud buzzing noise in the Psycho book. So maybe they wanted the murder to be similar to that. The chainsaw doesn't even have any blood on it before he kills the people on the bus. The rain wasn't able to wash the shit off of Melody, so it wouldn't wash the blood off either. This is one point I'm not entirely sure of, but I thought it best to take a stab at it in case it truly wasn't a dumb error. Even if it was, would that one error make this movie a 1 out of 10? No! The people on the bus thinking Leatherface was a performer was funny. It wouldn't be believable for Dante and Melody to have hired one to entertain the investors and do some sort of scary performance. And once the movie shows these cultists to be completely clueless towards Melody and Lila running into the bus in horror, to a serial killer standing right in front of them, too. They can't see what's right in front of them. When Lila sees him, she sees a quick and creepy flash of the picture of Leatherface from the gas station. This is to demonstrate, like with the old lady flashback, that she can see now. The "try anything and get canceled, bro" is a hilarious metal line, along with the commentary on the Instagram live video. It seemed goofy in the trailer, but it really does work in the final film. To compare it with another recent and overrated piece of shit film, and Scream 2022 has lines where they directly insult you, the audience, by telling you that you won't like you won't like something different or support it. These filmmakers are actively calling you stupid, yet you defend that movie over this one. And let's not even mention the "I got peanut butter on my dick" line from Halloween 2018. Is that really less of a joke than "try anything and get canceled, bro"? The same people who criticize that line are the same people who post other things in support of recent events on their Twitter profiles, social media profiles, as if that'll change anything. Like with the people who, they put vaccine needles in their profiles, they put flags in their profiles, like, "Oh, look at me, I'm a special person because I put something recent in my social media profile." The bus massacre scene is that of any horror fan's wildest dreams. Before watching this movie, I thought there's no way Leatherface is going to kill every last one on the bus, but he does. And the bloody and gory deaths in the scene are so satisfying. The song playing underneath the scene is even called "Every Last One." Beautiful. I was completely on Leatherface's side, and they're all trapped on the bus like animals in a slaughterhouse. It's scary and awesome at the same time. There's even a goofy kill where he chainsaws a guy and then impales a woman too, making them look like they're having sex. There's nothing wrong with a little humor once in a while. The same people who attack the movie for being hilarious are the same ones who love the second one for being comedic. So it feels like these fanboys pick and choose which movie gets more criticism. My favorite thing about the scene is when Leatherface comes across Lila for the first time. He actually senses she's more afraid than anyone else because she was already in a traumatic mass murder event. So he wants to target her the most because she's the most scared. That's a very dark concept. A point in defense of the bus driver beheading is when he chainsaws the man in half. The chainsaw only makes a very short buzzing sound, not a prolonged one like people would have thought. So it is entirely possible he beheaded that guy with ease and without making much of a buzzing noise. I have already mentioned the parallel between this bus scene and Halloween 6, the Doctor Massacre scene. But it's worth pointing out for this PTSD flashback of the school shooting, they matched the blue lighting from the bus for it, whereas earlier it was daytime when she saw the vision. The way he's chopping off limbs and tearing people apart shows how much he's enjoying the killing now, contrasted with earlier in the film. And another point I wanted to make that I forgot about was when Leatherface smashes the mirror, it's like he's smashing the image of what he knows he's becoming. He knows he's going to become the monster that he used to be again, and he's mad at himself for that because that's not what his mother would have wanted. And he's seeing his mother in the mirror judging him at the same time. So that's why he smashed the mirror. Obviously, the chainsawing the bathroom door is a nod to The Shining as well as the original film when he chainsaws the front door. He really does not like doors. One criticism I have is when she stabs him with the corkscrew, she says, "Oh my God!" I had to turn on the subtitles to confirm that, because before I thought she said, "Get off my lawn!" And it makes me cringe the way she says, "Oh my God." She didn't need to say anything. That was bad line delivery. I also like how Leatherface takes a moment to look at the corkscrew to see that it's a little chainsaw corkscrew. Okay, there actually is a decent ass shot with Melody climbing out of the bus. I love how Sally is in this movie. She's become insane herself. There's a nice change between the original movie and this one, where in the original, Drayton takes Sally home and leaves his headlights on while Nubbins takes her inside, helpless and scared. But in this new movie, she's the one stepping in front of the headlights, and she's a proud warrior ready to battle, or at least she thinks she is. I did not like how she hesitated killing him at first, but I've changed my mind. I like how different she's acting in comparison to the other boring final girls from the Blumhouse requels. She wants some sort of human emotion to come from him before she kills him. She feels she's deserved it, and she's not really the strong warrior that she thinks she is. They even say, when people discuss the original movie, they talk about how thin and forgettable the characters are. They even say, "I bet you can't name a single character. Name one. Red shorts girl, curly hair guy." Well, this movie makes sure you remember by repeating them. They aren't just meaningless victims in this film. It is interesting how Leatherface went back to his own room and put down his chainsaw. It's as if he wants to keep killing people, but he's just tired. It makes more sense than in Halloween Kills, where Judy Greer... I have 2 points to make with that. In Halloween Kills, Michael gets beaten down by this gang of people who are trying to kill him, and he immediately just gains all his strength back and kills them all off in a rapid session, and he's like dodging them and stuff. And people like that more than this. But also, Sally knows to go into this building because there's a light up in the room. She knows to go there. And it makes more sense than in Halloween Kills, where Judy Greer goes inside the Myers house because she saw the ghost of young Michael, a person who's still alive, in the bedroom window. Just think about that dumb logic. Sally's hesitation is weakness in her character. Imagine that. Weakness in a character. It's almost like all people have weaknesses. I also love how Halloween fanboys praise Halloween 2018 for Michael not remembering or caring who Laurie Strode is. Yet these same people complain Leatherface doesn't remember Sally. The hypocrisy in the fanboy is hilarious, and the fanboy community is hilarious. Leatherface has more of an excuse to have forgotten in the first place, because the time elapsed between the first one and this one is 48 years, whereas Halloween 2018 was only 40 years afterwards. "I was supposed to die in school that day, so death followed me here," is a damn good line that I did a purposefully poor delivery on for comedic sake. I also love how as soon as Melody says she's going to protect her sister, Leatherface is able to break down the window and grab Lila's leg, showing how unforgiving the world is. Sally strutting through town, maniacally laughing with her cowboy attire on, makes her feel like an old western duel. her fight feel like an old Western duel. But once again, our expectations are subverted when he literally, out of left field, just charges like a bear from the darkness. She stabs him in the gut, which parallels her gutting the pig earlier. And then he whoops her ass in return. That whole fight was good because it was something different. She didn't do anything more than what the real-life woman would have been capable of doing. She wasn't given Mary Sue plot armor to save the day and lead the other girls into a sequel where she fights him again and again and again and again. If the statue wasn't meant to represent Leatherface, the hero, it could have been symbolic of Sally being a relic of the past. That old cowboy comes to save the day and rescue the others doesn't work in this dark universe. I was actually cheering when he impaled her because it wasn't what I expected from a 2022 movie. In terms of Leatherface as a character, maybe they didn't give him a name on purpose. Maybe the nickname was supposed to be reminiscent of old outlaws being given nicknames which outshadowed their true identities. And it dehumanizes them too. Of course, because Leatherface threw the chainsaw at the car, people criticized that. Was he a 70-year-old man supposed to stand there doing nothing while a car drove full speed at him? Why the hell wouldn't he throw it at them? It was the smart thing to do. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink. People also criticized Sally not dying right away when he impaled her stomach with a chainsaw. He did not stab her through the heart, so she probably would have taken a few minutes to die in the actual film. That's probably why they specifically had him impale her in that area. Vlad the Impaler would impale people on spears, and they'd still be alive for hours, moaning and screaming. The work light in Richter's house was good moody lighting, like the camera bulb flashing in the original movie's opening. I love the moment where Melody actually apologizes to Leatherface. It shows character growth, something Halloween 2018 and Kills did not have in the slightest. It's rare for a horror movie victim to actually grow as a person. And I love the moment when Lila tries shooting Leatherface with an assault rifle, the same type of gun used against her in the school shooting, because it shows two different things. One, it's hypocritical how she and her cultists complained about guns, and then as soon as an emergency like this arises, she just runs to use it like she's used it before. Two, she has no knowledge of how to use one, so obviously the gun doesn't end up working in her favor. But you know who did know how to use a gun? Richter. If Richter, a knowledgeable gun owner, was still alive, he easily could have shot and killed Leatherface. And when she's almost killed, Sally shoots him and saves her. So tell me why this movie is supposedly quote-unquote anti-gun, when the weapons that save the main characters' asses are literally the guns. If anything, this movie is pro-gun and shows why you shouldn't live in fear of them. It shows how guns themselves aren't the problem, debunking the cultists' beliefs. This is also one of the only movies in the entire series where characters use guns to fight Leatherface. Movies that are anti-gun don't really want to use guns in them in the first place. And the new Black Widow movie, the feminazi director admitted she got rid of gun action so guns weren't being promoted. So the people who call this movie anti-gun are obviously people who didn't watch the full film, or their biases are making it so that they can't see what's right in front of them, just like the cultists. Sagebrush Theater is a cool Western type of name too. Lila charging into the theater with a shotgun is badass. I love how the rainwater trickling sound is in the theater. They easily could have gone the typical modern horror movie route where everything is quiet until a loud noise. but there's this sudden constant trickling of rain. Another reminder of the video game, that there's this constant, heavy rain. It's interesting how Lila's character's hair is also similar to Madison Page's from the game. At one point in that game, she comes across a serial killer who ties her up and tries killing her with a circular saw, a weapon similar to a chainsaw. And then when Leatherface throws the chainsaw again at her ankle, it was yet another smart and strategic move. Why would a 70-year-old man be dumb enough to let an 18-year-old girl grab a shotgun to shoot him? Do you want them to dumb down his character so she can win? No thanks. It's so awesome when he kicks the shotgun away too. I love how unrelenting he is in this specific movie. Leatherface raising the chainsaw above his head should be an obvious Easter egg to the second one fans love, but no, it's just something else that's stupid. The way Leatherface is able to absorb bullets reminds me of Bears. The moment he pops back up when she runs out of bullets is badass. Melody grabbing the chainsaw is another parallel to Leatherface himself. Lila even looks at her like she's gone a bit nuts. It's much more effective than Allison in Halloween 2018, just casually holding the kitchen knife at the end of that. Sorry. I was like, and that plot point never paid off either. It was a big waste of time. And at the end you can see Melody still doesn't have that much of a hatred for Leatherface. She just knocks him into the rainwater. She doesn't impale him or decapitate him or anything gratuitous. She has a bond with him now. I love the touch of the Polaroid Nubbins took in the original movie is used in this film. They focus on the cowboy statue to show there's a warrior around here somewhere still. You'd think it's Lila because she takes Sally's hat and puts it on briefly. But it's not. She immediately takes it off when she enters the car, showing she isn't the real hero. Leatherface is, and he's still alive. The final car ride home is obviously a traditional Western's ride off into the sunset. I don't know about you, but I was happy when Leatherface grabbed Melody out of the car and cut her head off. It was similar to in the prequel, The Beginning, where he hooks Bailey and drags her out of the moving truck. The scene reminds me a bit of the Nightmare on Elm Street twist ending that a lot of people aren't fans of. I was also happy because, as I stated earlier, her face could be a perfect Pretty Woman mask for him to wear in the sequel. A lot of people stupidly complained about Lila supposedly trying to crawl out of the sunroof. That's completely false because she's not trying to crawl out at all. She's just spectating in terror. And Leatherface holding the head up to her to taunt her is cool too. It's a nice little tribute to the original movie's ending. I would be happy if the sequel made it a dream though, because it actually looks and feels like a dream. The first thing she does when she gets into the car is yawn in exhaustion. It's not out of line to suggest she fell asleep. Her sister was even the one who had to press the autopilot button. The last point I wanted to make has to do with the Halloween and Scream fanboys. In the piece of garbage Scream 2022, the annoying female Randy character lays out why all horror movie sequels have to be requels, where they just copy the other movies and also have a Mary Sue final girl. When that dumbass movie said that, people loved it and cheered it on and applauded it. But now that there's any similarities in a non-Blumhouse requel, all of a sudden these same fanboys have a problem. So I guess requels shouldn't follow the formula these fanboys cheered for? It didn't even copy Halloween 2018. If it did, I would have been the first one to admit it. You saw how vicious I was when I criticized those movies. I would have destroyed this Texas Chainsaw movie if it had done the same thing in the same detailed fashion as I'm defending it right now. Overall, I love this movie. All the fanboys who say the same old few broad criticisms, like, it's hilariously bad, the characters are dumb, and the movie is dumb, can go ride Leatherface's chainsaw. I'm fine with differing opinions, but just please be consistent. Don't give certain movies a free pass and then rake others over the coals. And with that, that is all I have to say for now. Please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of the analysis. This might be my favorite thing I've ever done for the channel. I really loved analyzing the whole movie and being able to defend it because it really deserves defending. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more videos like these. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.